Morning. I'm Liz Ryan, Administrator of the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, or OJJDP. Welcome. Thank you for joining us here in Harrisburg to learn more about OJJDP's fiscal year Building Local Continuums of Care to Support Youth Success Initiative, and to hear from two of our Continuum of Care grantees, the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency and the City of Philadelphia. In all, OJJDP is awarding $17 million in funding to 26 grantees, 6 states, 17 local jurisdictions, and 3 training and technical assistance providers. So I'd like to begin by thanking the City of Harrisburg for hosting this morning's event and for providing this space and for your warm welcome. I'd also like to offer sincere thanks to Pennsylvania's Lieutenant Governor, Austin Davis, for his commitment to justice and services for youth. As Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Davis chairs Pennsylvania's Commission on Crime and Delinquency. The Commission's efforts are vital to the health and well-being of Pennsylvania's young people and to the functioning and safety of local communities. Under Lieutenant Governor Davis's leadership, the Commission emphasizes balanced and restorative justice to help system-involved young people rehabilitate, re-enter their communities, and find meaning in their lives. The Commission relies on research and evidence-based strategies to prevent delinquency by young people, responding to their needs while keeping communities safe. I'm excited to tell you about OJJDP's mission and our Continuum of Care for Communities framework. OJJDP has supported youth and families across the nation for nearly 50 years. We provide federal funding to states, tribes, and communities to protect children, prevent delinquency, and improve juvenile justice systems. Our office was established in 1974 through the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act. 2 years ago, President Biden appointed me as administrator of OJJDP. As administrator, I direct grant programs, training initiatives, and policy activities. In other words, I'm responsible for ensuring that the office fulfills its charge, that we serve and protect this nation's young people. 3 priorities guide everything that we do. First, treat children as children. Second, serve youth at home, with their families, and in their communities. And third, open up opportunities for young people who come into contact with the justice system. At the core of each of our priorities is an unwavering commitment to racial equity and fairness, and a promise to partner with young people and families who are directly impacted by the juvenile justice system. Right now, communities across the country are coping with profound challenges that impact the health and well-being of young people. Depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues have spiked since the start of the pandemic. Our youth are isolated. Too many youth suffer trauma and victimization. Gun violence continues to shatter communities, and the list goes on. Youth victimization trends are especially alarming, particularly among young people involved in the juvenile justice system. A recent OJJDP-supported study found that system-involved youth were up to 23 times more likely than the general population to die from gun violence. 16 years after confinement, more than 25% of Black and Hispanic male young adults have been injured or killed by firearms. We continue to tackle these issues every day, and we are making great strides in our responses to system-involved youth. Over the past 2 decades, youth arrests for violent crime are down, and the number of youth in residential placement has dropped significantly. We are diverting greater numbers of young people from the justice system, providing them instead with community-based resources and treatment that have been shown to be more effective at reducing reoffending and improving outcomes. And more policymakers and practitioners are adopting evidence-based and evidence-informed approaches that are rooted in science, the science of adolescent development. OJJDP proudly supports these efforts. Our Continuum of Care framework emphasizes evidence-based and promising programs and practices so that young people can access the resources and services where they live, and at every point in the juvenile justice system. It takes a holistic approach spanning prevention, intervention, treatment, and reentry strategies. The continuum of care emphasizes prevention and early intervention for the vast majority of young people, supporting those at risk both of delinquency and victimization. For young people at high risk of moving deeper into the juvenile justice system, the framework emphasizes intensive, targeted, and evidence-based and evidence-informed programming. OJJDP is not the first agency to adopt a continuum of care approach. Decades of research and success in other fields, including housing and healthcare sectors, support its use. We developed our framework after holding numerous listening sessions and town halls around the country. Scores of youth justice stakeholders attended, including many young people and families who have firsthand experience of the juvenile justice system. We listened as they told us what works, what doesn't, and why. With a continuum of care in place for youth, communities are better able to assess their needs, identify gaps in programs and services, and distribute resources accordingly. The goal is to prevent most young people from ever entering the juvenile justice system and to help those who become system involved to find positive paths for the future. Out-of-home placement should only be considered for the very few youth who pose a serious risk to public safety. Today, I'd like to share OJJDP's Continuum of Care for Communities infographic, which illustrates the framework and the array of services it encompasses. As you can see, the framework centers on youth, families, and communities and reflects the dynamic, evolving nature of their needs. It reflects the process for providing services to youth, beginning with protecting and supporting children who are at risk for becoming involved in delinquency or for being victimized. OJJDP's Continuum of Care framework makes sense, serving youth well, responding to their needs, and offering them options and opportunities, strengthens communities, and contributes to public safety. The framework also fulfills a legal mandate. The Federal Juvenile Justice Reform Act of 2018 directs OJJDP to support a continuum of evidence-based or promising programs that are trauma-informed, reflect the science of adolescent development, and are designed to meet the needs of youth who are involved in the juvenile justice system or who are at risk for system involvement. As I mentioned, OJJDP's fiscal year 2023 initiative, Building Local Continuums of Care to Support Youth Success, has awarded a total of $17.1 million to 26 grantees. I'm extremely pleased to officially announce here 2 awards to 2 grantees here in Pennsylvania, the City of Philadelphia and the state's Commission on Crime and Delinquency. Both have extraordinary plans to advance OJJDP's goals and strengthen continuums of care in Pennsylvania. OJJDP has awarded $450,000 to the City of Philadelphia to fund the city's Continuum of Care Planning Project, an initiative supporting the decarceration of young people and the expansion of services for those re-entering the community after incarceration or who are at risk of involvement in the criminal justice system. Philadelphia's Office of Policy and Strategic Initiatives for Criminal Justice and Public Safety will involve youth, their families, and other stakeholders in an assessment and planning process. They will work together to map community-based services and programs, develop efficient and inclusive methods for assessing services, and ultimately generate a comprehensive system based on national best practices to support youth and their families. The city aims to eliminate ineffective and redundant services and strategically reinvest cost savings in diversion, prevention, and intervention programs that support youth success. Lisa Varon, Deputy Director of Juvenile Justice Initiatives in Philadelphia's Office of Criminal Justice, will tell us more in a few moments. With $825,000 in OJJDP's funding, Pennsylvania's Commission on Crime and Delinquency is partnering with the West Ed Justice and Prevention Research Center to identify innovative strategies for expanding community-based resources and services along a continuum of care and opportunity. The Supporting Youth Success in Pennsylvania statewide planning and assessment initiative will focus on designing, implementing, and sustaining local coordinated continuums of care and opportunity for youth who are involved or at risk for system involvement. The initiative will review Pennsylvania's youth-serving infrastructure to identify and engage additional partners, particularly emphasizing communities with high levels of need and limited resources. The process will focus on opportunities to prevent youth from entering the juvenile justice system or becoming more deeply involved in it. And it will be guided by principles the state has already embraced: balanced and restorative justice. Ultimately, Pennsylvania aims to create a comprehensive statewide plan with funding, policy, and program recommendations to guide the state's youth-focused services. OJJDP is thrilled to support this effort. The Commission's Executive Director, Mike Pennington, is here today and will share details in a few moments. At its core, the Continuum of Care framework is a holistic approach that is community-driven, leveraging local insights and resources. Serving youth well strengthens communities and contributes to public safety. Everyone benefits. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to engaging with some of you one-on-one later this morning, and I will now turn the microphone over to Lisa Varon.
Good morning to all. Thank you, Administrator Ryan. I'm thrilled, I'm honored to be here on behalf of the City of Philadelphia. This award comes at an opportune time with renewed commitment from city leadership to ensure that our juvenile justice system is effective, equitable, restorative, and most of all, as Administrator Ryan just said, based in what the research tells us is best for our kids and our families. Through this planning process, we intend to overlay data at critical decision-making points along the continuum, looking for areas where efficiencies and enhancements can be achieved by policy, programmatic, and/or realignment. As we create these system maps, we engage our partners from Philadelphia Family Voices and advocates for justice from the Juvenile Law Center to add context and to ensure that our assumptions that we make or questions we might ask based on what we see in these continuums and see in the data are accurate or sometimes not accurate. This is a critical part to the planning process, without which we would not be able to actualize the real systematic changes or improvements. Throughout the process, we'll also look to identify system off-ramps whenever available, when it's safe to do so. As the evidence shows, community-based services and programs are more effective over time, and that less exposure to system involvement prevents further justice system involvement. That said, accountability and public safety will also be at the core of this work. The final product is going to be an implementation plan for achieving the new goals that come out of the system-wide collaborative stakeholder planning process. In addition to the aforementioned partners, Philadelphia Family Voices and Juvenile Law Center's Juveniles for Justice, other key collaborators include Drexel University's Juvenile Justice Research and Reform Lab, the National Assessment Center Association, support from the Casey Foundation's Juvenile Detention's Alternatives Initiative, JDAI, and of course collaboration with PCCD, as we're looking forward to learning from their process and ensuring that our processes are aligned. Our system stakeholder planning and coordination team includes the Philadelphia Police Department, the First Judicial District, including Family Court, Juvenile Probation Department, Department of Human Services, Community Behavioral Health, School District of Philadelphia, and the newly formed Office of the Youth Ombudsperson. We've promised our system partners fewer meetings just to meet and more action-oriented, policy-focused conversations about what options and recommendations are for consideration as we build our final implementation plan from there. I know this is ambitious to do in 18 months, but based on recent collaborative work in this space, we feel confident that we have the momentum needed and the strong partners at the table, locally and also at the state, to come up with a plan that's effective, efficient, restorative, and rooted in evidence from the field. We're very grateful to OJJDP for the thoughtful approach to creating these grant opportunities and for the opportunity to partner with PCCD on the statewide level. I will introduce now the Executive Director of PCCD, Mike Pennington.
Thanks, Lisa, and good morning, everyone. And I am Mike Pennington, and I'm proud to serve as Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. And welcome to our headquarters here in Harrisburg. And I want to thank Administrator Ryan for being here today and for selecting Pennsylvania as a site to announce their federal Building Local Continuums of Care to Support Youth Success funding initiative. This initiative has collaboration at its core, and we're blessed with many good partners for this work. This includes our national partners like West Edge Justice and Prevention Research Center, who will help spearhead this statewide project with us in the coming months. It also includes local partners like Lisa from the Philadelphia Office of Criminal Justice and Will Kiefer, Shyla, and Trevor, who you'll hear from today from the Benchmark program. And we're thrilled to have you all here today. But I'm especially proud that Shyla and Trevor could be here today to share their stories. I visited Benchmark program last year, and they are doing invaluable work in their community in Lancaster area and truly embody the continuum of care approach that these dollars seek to bring more communities across Pennsylvania, and across the country. Before I dive into our plan and use of these federal dollars, I'd like to provide some context and background on some of the work we've accomplished to improve juvenile justice in Pennsylvania. Thanks to more than a decade of reforms and efforts at both the state and local levels, Pennsylvania has seen steady and sustained decreases in the number of youth involved at every level of the juvenile justice system. In 2022, the number of youth referred to the justice system was 38% lower than it was a decade before. And today, more than 3/4 of all juvenile cases are diverted from criminal processing. Formal court processing. These data make clear that Pennsylvania is heading in the right direction. But it's important to remember that these aren't just statistics. Behind each number, there are young people who are given an opportunity to forge a better path for themselves and their families and their communities. It's also important to recognize that despite this progress, our work is far from finished. In fact, today, Pennsylvania's youth and the systems who serve them are at a critical crossroads. At PCCD, we've been carefully monitoring some concerning trends. Skyrocketing mental health and behavioral health needs among youth continue to outpace resources available in our communities. Gun violence is now the #1 cause of death among children and youth, cutting short the lives and potential of too many young people across the Commonwealth. Racial and ethnic disparities continue to persist within the juvenile justice system. Black youth remain far more likely than white youth to interact with the justice system and experience more severe consequences for system involvement. While the overall use of court-based diversion practices has grown, it's still not universal practices across the Commonwealth. And pre-arrest diversion and deflection programs designed to prevent youth from becoming formally involved in the system in the first place remain significantly underutilized in Pennsylvania. And lastly, youth-serving organizations and institutions are stretched thin, often overworked and under-resourced, and struggling to find qualified folks to fill critical roles serving youth and families. These are issues we have heard a lot about during our recent discussions with members of our Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Committee, which is Pennsylvania's state advisory group. The committee recently issued a 2023 Juvenile Justice Plan for Pennsylvania, which can be found in the Juvenile Justice section on our website at pccd.pa.gov. This plan highlights key challenges and opportunities facing the Commonwealth and lays out recommendations to address some of these issues in the short term. The funding announced today will further build on those efforts by coordinating a long-term plan for the broader ecosystem of justice, behavioral health, education, workforce, public health, and other youth-serving systems. It's going to take more than one agency and one sector or one program to address these challenges. The growing needs of youth, coupled with the strains on youth-serving systems, point to a need for all of us to work together to better support young people, families, and communities. With the $825,000 in federal funds announced today, PCCD and our implementation partners at West Edge Justice and Prevention Research Center will take a three-phased approach: data gathering, mapping and assessment, and developing Pennsylvania's Continuum of Care statewide plan. Our primary goal of this initiative is to prevent unnecessary involvement of youth within the juvenile justice system by identifying gaps in both state and local systems that create barriers for youth and families. The planning, mapping, and assessment process will be guided by a state-level joint working group comprised of youth, families, and stakeholders representing a wide range of youth-serving systems. Most importantly, these phases of the process will center around the voices and experiences of impacted youth and their families to hear and learn from their perspectives on changes that are needed and ways that systems must step up and improve. That's a priority PCCD has invested in through the creation of youth justice advisory boards in communities across Pennsylvania, sites like the Benchmark program, who you'll hear from shortly. As someone who started my career in juvenile justice and has had a front row seat to the reforms we've made in the last 2 decades, incorporating youth voice isn't just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. After all, who better to chart a path forward than those who can speak firsthand on how the systems put in place to support them have impacted their lives. I continue to be inspired by youth and the adults they trust who have called on the system to do better and be better. And we want to ensure that they have a seat at the table throughout this entire assessment process. It's organizations like Benchmark Program who are working to create a continuum of care and opportunity for the youth they serve each and every day, who served as an inspiration for this project. Every young person should be able to access the kind of supports, trust, and mentorship these kinds of programs provide, and that's the vision we're working towards with this initiative. These efforts will result in the creation of a comprehensive roadmap, statewide roadmap, offering funding, policy, and program recommendations to effectively support youth across a continuum of prevention, deflection, and diversion. Pennsylvania hopes to design a blueprint that can be implemented at the state and local levels and can serve as a model for the nation. We are grateful for this funding and support from OJJDP to better understand the needs of our youth and set them up for lives of opportunity. And now I'd like to turn things over to Lori Toscano, who's the Director of the Justice Technical Assistance at Wested Justice and Prevention Research Center, to speak on our partnership and funding. Lori?
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, all. It's a pleasure to be here. Through smart reforms, collaborative partnerships, and sustained investments, Pennsylvania has made significant progress over the past 2 decades to reduce the number of youth who are involved in the juvenile justice system. As the system and other youth-serving agencies face growing challenges, we must continue to identify innovative strategies to expand community-based services and supports for youth and their families along a continuum of care. WestEd is honored to work alongside PCCD and other state and local partners in this effort to prevent system involvement for youth and to identify and remedy existing gaps. Through our work supporting PCCD in their violence prevention and intervention efforts, we have seen the commitment at all levels of leadership across the Commonwealth. They are committed to being comprehensive, evidence-based, data-driven, and human-centered. It is a privilege to bring our team's collective experiences in these areas from similar work all over the country to the Commonwealth. This broad experience, coupled with our connection to youth-serving, community-based organizations across Pennsylvania, will allow us to help plan and ultimately deliver a true continuum of care that has lasting and meaningful impact. There is no better example of what is possible than Benchmark. It makes me so happy to be joined here by Will, Shyla, and Trevor, as it's their hard work and commitment that serves as proof that centering the needs of youth and taking a care-oriented approach truly works. We are also grateful to our colleagues at OJJDP who have led by example in the push to support youth in our country in appropriate and effective ways. We look forward to working with the state and local leaders to build this continuum of care to better serve the young people and families across the Commonwealth. And now I'd like to introduce Will Kiefer, Executive Director of Benchmark from Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Lori, and good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here. My name is Will Kiefer. I'm the Executive Director of Benchmark. The challenges that we're discussing today are not simple challenges, but our solutions can be guided by simple principles, 2 of which I'll highlight today, many of which I imagine we all hear about growing up. The first is to think long-term, to plan for the long term, and to behave in ways that set ourselves, our programs, and our youth up for long-term success. And the second is a principle that my mom drilled into me, maybe talking about teaching. She said it will matter less what you say. It will matter more about how you make people feel. And so through Benchmark program, we've tried to create an initiative that embodies those two principles, that behaves long-term, but then when kids are in our program, they feel welcome, they feel understood, they feel like their lives matter, that they have a say in how the system changes around them. So to make that possible, we've developed a series of initiatives that constitute a continuum of care that start in the detention center and connect with kids immediately upon their release, and then stay connected with them through their time on juvenile probation, and then offer a community-based alternative to maintain those mentoring relationships. And then even, as is the case with Shyla and Trevor, speak on our Youth Justice Advisory Board, have a part-time employment at our organization, and give back as peer mentors. We've gone farther in the past couple years to develop school-based suspension alternative programs, and now some diversionary work with crime-adjacent youth, but who are not adjudicated themselves. We're doing our best in our grassroots efforts to make that possible. But there's really no one better to describe that work than my two student leaders, Shyla and Trevor. I've asked them to prepare a couple answers to some questions, and I'll be up here with them. But I can't tell you all how proud I am of them and how lucky I have been to play a small part in their life. It's been years of work, and what you will see today is truly a testament to their endurance and their ability to persevere and their resilience. So Shyla and Trevor, if you both would come up, I'll turn the mic over to you.
Hi everybody, my name is Trevor. I'm 15 and I lived in the Lancaster area.
Hi, my name is Shyla. I'm 18 and I live in Lancaster City, PA.
I've been involved with the juvenile justice system probably about since the age of 12, so a little on 3 years.
I've been involved in the juvenile justice system since I was 12 years old.
One program that helped with me is the Benchmark program, and what I mean by the Benchmark program is the predisposition program. I would like to shed light on the predisposition program because it helped me realize that there's more to life than just doing whatever you want and just outside getting in trouble.
The programs that have worked for me are SBSB and ART programs and the ETC program and the Youth Intervention Center. They both work because with ART, it's a consistent schedule of things that you need to work on, and it's personalized for every individual. And SBSB worked because I can work on my strengths while also setting long-term and short-term goals.
I've learned a lot about my experiences, and I've learned a lot about what I do doesn't only affect me, it affects the people around me. And through my time through the juvenile justice system, I learned that a lot in a very hard way, just through with my parents and my family members, and with my little brother wanting to look up to me and do stuff like how I do it. And one thing that I learned about speaking opportunities like such is I just try to give back from my trials and tribulations so other kids don't have to go through what I went through. And yeah.
The things that I've learned from my experiences are that I am not alone, and it doesn't end with just being thrown into the system. I can work from there. And the things that I've learned from my speaking opportunities are I can speak to other kids that are like me and that were my age, and I look at them and I can see them as I can help them because I've been through that myself. So yeah.
One change that I would like to see in the juvenile justice system would probably be kids not being locked up for petty crimes and petty charges. I feel like people should only be locked up, I guess I would say, as if there's a risk to the community. I don't think a lot of people should get taken away from their houses and their families.
One change that I want to see in the system is kind of how the kids are treated in the system. I think that when nobody knows what to do, they're thrown immediately into a detention center without putting other programs in place. So that's what I want to see for other juveniles.
I feel like we should build long-term programs instead of short-term programs, because I feel like a lot of kids just get done what they have to do and then they're outside with a lot of times on their hands, and you can take a person out of a place, but you can't take the place out of a person.
I think we should build long-term programs, because once we see that a juvenile or another individual is starting to like cycle back or show a pattern, that program will already be set in place, or things will already be like implemented into their life, instead of kind of just like releasing them from the program that they have. So they'll have just like immediate help or something that will stick like right by them.
That's all the questions that we had prepared. So, yeah.
Thank you, Shyla, and thank you, Trevor. I'd like to welcome Administrator Ryan back up. I really appreciate everyone's time today.
Thank you, Shyla. Thank you, Trevor, so much. You make this real. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Mike, Lisa, Lori. I want to thank all of you for focusing on the well-being of young people and for designing and implementing these continuums of care that respond to youth and family needs, provide opportunities for young people to grow, and promote community safety. OJJDP and my colleagues at OJJDP and I are very energized by your vision and your plans. We look forward to witnessing your progress and to celebrating your success. Thank you, too, for joining us this morning to learn about OJJDP's Continuum of Care framework and the Pennsylvania initiatives funded under the Building Local Continuums of Care to Support Youth Success initiative. To learn more about OJJDP, please visit our website at ojjdp.ojp.gov. My fellow speakers and I are available to speak with members of the press following this event. Thank you so much.
Get done in the wee hours before everyone else gets online. Sounds like a very productive day.
So true. People are bothered.
Program, and we're thrilled to have you all here today. But I'm especially proud that Shyla and Trevor could be here today to share their stories. I visited Benchmark program last year, and they are doing invaluable work in their community in Lancaster area and truly embody the continued number of youth involved at every level of the juvenile justice system. In 2022, the number of youth, more than 3/4 of all juvenile cases are diverted from criminal processing, formal court processing. These data make clear that Pennsylvania